All right then, welcome to our first explainer for GCSE Foundation AQA Maths. Look, I get it, math can sometimes feel like a bit of a maze, but trust me, we're going to build a rock-solid foundation here that'll make everything else just click into place.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a classic GCSE-style question. Have a look at this. 5 minus 3 plus 2 times 7 squared. It looks a bit messy, doesn't it? You've got brackets, addition, multiplication, a power, all jumbled together. This is exactly the kind of thing examiners love to throw at you to check you know the basic rules.
But honestly, don't sweat it. By the time we're done here, a problem like this is going to be an absolute piece of cake. We're going to break down everything you need, step by step, so you can solve these with confidence and bag those easy marks on your exam paper.
So, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the absolute basics, the language of maths. Then, hit the most important rule you'll need, BIDMAS. After that, we'll look at handling big and small numbers, get confident with negatives, and then, finally, put it all together. Sound good? Let's get started.
Right, first up, learning the lingo. You know, before we can even think about solving anything, we've got to make sure we're all speaking the same language. That means getting to grips with all the symbols you're going to see on your exam paper. Just think of this as your maths cheat sheet. You've got the obvious ones like plus and minus, sure, but it's the others that can sometimes trip people up, like the not equal to sign, greater than, less than, and of course the brackets and that little squared symbol for powers. Knowing what these mean instantly is the first step to cracking any question.
Okay, let's move on to the single most important rule in your entire maths GCSE. And I'm not kidding, if you only take one thing away from this whole explainer, make it this. This is the golden rule that tells you the exact order to tackle any calculation.
And that rule is BIDMAS. You might have also heard it called BODMAS. They're pretty much the same thing. It's basically a little word to help us remember the correct order of operations. Without it, you and I could look at the same sum and get two completely different answers. So think of it like the grammar of maths. It just makes sure we're all on the same page.
So here's how it works. First, you always deal with anything inside brackets, no exceptions. Then you sort out any indices, that's your powers and square roots. Next up, you do any division and multiplication. Now this is key. You do them as they pop up from left to right. And finally, you tackle addition and subtraction. Again, just working from left to right. This order is non-negotiable.
Okay, time to actually use it. Let's go back to that problem from the start. We've got 5 minus 3 plus 2 times 7 squared. So, following BIDMAS, what comes first? Yup, B for brackets.
So we do the bit inside the brackets first. 5 minus 3 is 2. Simple. Now our problem already looks a lot friendlier. 2 plus 2 times 7 squared. See? One step down.
Right, what's next in BIDMAS? I for indices. We've got that 7 squared hanging around. Well, 7 times 7 is 49, so we just swap out the 7 squared for 49. Our problem now is 2 plus 2 times 49. We're just tidying it up as we go.
Okay, we've got an addition and a multiplication left. What does BIDMAS say? Well, M comes way before A, so we have to do the multiplication next. 2 times 49 is 98. And notice, we do this before we even think about touching that 2 at the start. Our problem is now just 2 plus 98. Almost there.
And finally, the last bit is A for addition. 2 plus 98 gives us our final answer, 100. See? Not so scary when you have a system to follow, is it? That exact process will get you to the right answer every single time.
So now that we've totally nailed the order of operations, let's take a quick look at the numbers themselves. Because understanding something called place value is absolutely key to making sure you're adding, subtracting, and comparing them correctly.
This chart shows you exactly how it works. Let's take a big number, like 1,234,567. That 7 right at the end is just worth 7 ones. But the 1 all the way over on the left, that's not just a 1. Its place in the number tells us it's actually worth 1 million. Every single digit's value depends completely on where it's sitting. This is super important stuff, especially for things like column addition. And you know what? It works exactly the same for decimals, just on the other side of the point. We go into tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. A great way to think about it is in race times. When you hear an athlete won by 5/100ths of a second, that's 0.05, place value is what tells us how incredibly tiny that difference is. It's crucial for money, for measurements, and for making sure you line up your decimal points correctly. Okay, let's move on to another area that examiners absolutely love to test, Negative numbers. I know they can look a bit intimidating, but honestly, the rules for dealing with them are surprisingly simple once you actually see them laid out.
Let's start with multiplying and dividing, because the rule is dead simple. If the signs of the two numbers you're working with are the same, so a negative times a negative or a positive times a positive, the answer is always positive. If the signs are different, like a negative times a positive, the answer is always negative. Just remember that. Same signs, positive. Different signs, negative. That's it.
Now, for adding and subtracting, the main thing you've got to remember is that two minus signs squashed up next to each other actually become a plus. So 5 minus negative 3 is exactly the same as 5 plus 3. And what about adding a negative? Well, that's just a fancy way of saying subtract. Think about it like a bank account. Adding a negative amount is just like taking money out.
Right then, the final section. Let's pull all of these building blocks together. We've got the symbols, we've got the golden rule of BIDMAS, and we've got the rules for negatives. Now we can see how this solid foundation lets you master any calculation they could possibly throw at you. So, let's look back at where we started. That problem, 5 minus 3 plus 2 times 7 squared. It doesn't look so bad now, does it? That's because you've got the tools. You understand the language of the symbols, you know the grammar of BIDMAS, and you know how all the numbers work. What seemed really complicated at the start is now just a straightforward, step-by-step process.
So, if there's one thing to really take away from all this, it's this. BIDMAS is your roadmap. For every single calculation, no matter how many bits and pieces it has, BIDMAS gives you a clear path to the right answer. Master it, and you will be unlocking marks all over your foundation paper.
And that's a wrap. You've now got a solid foundation in how number operations work. So have a little think. What other maths rules have you been finding a bit tricky? Because with this foundation in place, we're ready to build on it and tackle the next big topic. Cheers for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.